All right, North-South Connection. We are kicking it old school with an audio-only edition. And this time we are bringing you NoSo Network, which is also old school. We are starting with Wrestling 2024 Year-End Awards. And we are stealing the Meltzer scale or the Meltzer Observer categories, A category, B categories. And we're going from there. I am joined, as always, with Mike Rossi. We've been doing this since 2021. So how you feeling about this right now?
Good. I didn't really feel like I had many tough choices this year in the categories. I think it was pretty cut and dry, but I'm sure we're going to disagree on some things, and I think that's where this gets really fun, right?
Yeah, it's funny looking at this because I felt that like in 2021, the gentleman that we have now was with us, and when we did it, I did WWE, Eller did AEW, and Rossi, you did like the other type of thing, right? And then after that, we kind of were just like, all right, well, we can change it up and we'll just do overall. And I think we started doing overall because like it started to shift. Like WWE is starting to gain momentum. WWE is starting to gain a lot more of these awards. WWE is not, it is always been like the A promotion, but now with the hardcores or even the whatever, the observer community are starting to skew a lot more WWE. And of course, AEW has their diehards as well. So I'm curious where we land. But before we get there, Eller, you were gracious enough to join us for the first one. And now you are here 4 years later. What's going on, buddy? A lot has changed as we were getting into with you 4 years ago till now.
Yes,
but
sir.
How's it going? I think you have a lot less free time. But overall, how are you with your watching wrestling nowadays?
You know, I can still watch. I can watch maybe even more. I don't know. I just find the time, and it's such a priority. Like to when I have actual free time, like all right, I want to watch wrestling. And to what Rossi said, I didn't have like a hard time finding anything. There's a couple times where like I kept going back and forth on maybe one or two, but I'm excited to get into it and just see like, do we have the same? Obviously, AEW was way hotter 3 years ago when we did this, and I'm curious how much of the worst of is AEW when a lot of the worst of was WWE in 2021 or 2020. So excited to check it out.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for sure. So let's kick it off. And for somehow we split the A's. We split the B categories, and then we're going to share the A categories. And for some reason, I ended up with more B categories than you guys. So since there's 16 B categories, I somehow ended up with 6, and you guys have 5. So I'm kicking us off. And what I chose to kick us off with is the most charismatic. I think this one was kind of easy. I think with wrestling is obvious, obviously so many people are charismatic and that's such a strong attribute, but I think the top tier here was kind of easy. And I came up with 3 names, 2 being WWE, 1 being AEW. All of them kind of being part-timers in a way now, all of them venturing outside of wrestling to gain or work, whatnot. And the first one being AEW's own MJF. He is in 2025. He'll be co-starring. Well, I don't know, starring, but he'll be a part of Happy Gilmore 2. And of a lot of those attributes that got him there was his charisma and his connection. So MJF is always on a short list of top tier charismatic people, but his overall volume or some of his shtick might be kind of the same, so to speak, this year into other years. So I'm not sure if I'm going to pick him, but he is definitely the most charismatic in AEW, in my opinion. Second being Roman Reigns in the WWE, very similar. He's probably at the top of this list, especially since we've been doing it since 2021. But overall, his shtick, he is so magnetic when he is on screen, but he took probably the biggest gap in his time being the last few years. So I don't know if that hurts him and being off for 5 months after losing the title. But we'll talk about him and his moment at WrestleMania 40 a lot throughout here. But a lot of that is his charisma shining, especially in that night. He was so outstanding. And the last one being CM Punk. He did not wrestle from the majority of this year, being out from the Royal Rumble to SummerSlam. So that is at least half the year where he was sidelined with a tricep injury. But with CM Punk, he carried so much weight with the microphone, and his charisma carried a bunch of stories, and he was so magnetic with moving. Whenever he was on screen, it was must-see TV. So he is probably my pick for most charismatic in 2024. CM Punk, not due to necessarily missing all that time did not hurt him, but when he was on the screen, maximizing his minutes and really being hurt and being able to deal with that charisma is kind of what put him over the edge. And using his charisma to forward storylines and whatnot is the reason why I'm picking him as most charismatic for 2024. Any other names that I got missed out with you guys?
Might want to add Cody in there. I know he can be kind of pokey, and a little corny, but yeah, he's got his presence, and he's still really over with the fans, and his main events feel like main events to me.
No, for sure. I think the like the quirkiness, which is an attribute, which is endearing to him, kind of versus me personally pushed that away from me. But he was definitely in that top tier. He just didn't make the top 3 for me. Rossi, did I miss anyone? And did I pick the right guy in Punk?
What about LA Knight? Yeah.
It's just levels to it.
No, I agree. I agree. He's kind of a step below, but he can probably get a crowd by the balls more than anybody.
For sure. Well, I just look to see that translate to the main event scene. Perhaps I might have picked him in past years, but it was so I don't want to say it was so new, but it was so maybe new to you, like as a viewer,
right,
in the WWE, right? And maybe that shtick hasn't evolved, where where Punk maybe just accelerated everything that he was with, being injured and being so magnetic on TV. If LA Knight's injured, he's just away, right? And his charisma. Punk's charisma put him back on TV when he couldn't wrestle, right? So I don't know. I'm just going to go Punk. I feel, but LA Knight definitely warrants it. He's probably like a B+ tier if Cody's like an A- tier. I definitely think those are probably the most top 5 guys right there.
Yeah, we gotta probably gotta say The Rock too, right? Because
that's a great point.
His first quarter of the year was as charismatic as anybody all year. It just wasn't for the length of the year.
No doubt. But I feel like I'm gonna give him some love in another category.
Agree.
So.
Agree. I am too.
So overall, charismatic, CM Punk. Eller, promotion of the year. You're up.
I think this one's pretty obvious this year. I think it's WWE. They were on fire for the end of 2022. They're on fire for all of 2023, and they may have even picked it up a notch in 2024. Both main roster shows are very good, to sometimes great. NXT is tremendous right now, and it's the best it's been probably since like the middle. Like I think the TV wise might be the best it's been. Maybe not as good as pay-per-view wise, but the main roster, we're in an era right now that we really haven't seen since like the early 2000s in terms of how hot the company is, and couple that with, I don't think that there's been a bad pay-per-view all year. And the last thing I'll add is they're just so hot that there's no bad, like the storylines are great. The things that are bad are not really just cringeworthy, awful, where they've been in the past under Vince. And I think it's just really cool that, the Attitude Era is like the last hot streak, and that was that ended over 23 years ago. And now we're just in this new era. I really don't, with New Japan being really bad right now and AEW having a lot of struggles, I don't really think that it could be anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right. Unless if you want to get like cute, you'd be like, "Oh, UFC," right? But we're just not hitting that demographic. Yeah, I think this is an easy one, Eller. And it's funny, I brought up 2024, or excuse me, I brought up 2021 earlier, right? And I think you were making cases that the WWE was the promotion of the year. 2022, I think you could make a bigger case. In the last 2 years, it's kind of undeniable. Yeah. Right. It's just kind of depends what you're looking for. But the reason I bring that up is because with AEW, like if you're still making that case in 2024, what are you looking for? What are you looking at? And maybe you're not looking at the right thing since the decline is so rapid over there. Not to, of course, it's an opinion, and I guess your opinion to yourself can't be wrong. But at this point, like, what are we doing over there, or what's the point, or so on and so forth. But yeah, I think this is an easy one. Eller, you want to add anything with that, Rossi?
Yeah, I can't argue it. AEW, I think, still had its moments, of course, and their pay-per-views for the most part still deliver, and in some areas over deliver. But like, I'm at the point now that I watch their pay-per-views. Like, I really don't find the need to watch their every week TV. And I used to watch it, at least Dynamite, religiously. So I think me, who I consider a pretty major wrestling fan, I've watched less wrestling this year than in many of the prior 5 or 6 years. And that's probably because I lost a lot of interest in what they're doing on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's less and less for me. Collision, I very rarely tune into, unless if I hear it's such a great match. I probably watch Rampage more than Collision, honestly, and that's going away just because SmackDown's over and it's on, right? So I was like, all right, what are they doing with the first match, and then how fast do they wear me away? And now it's just like I'm catching 1 or 2 Dynamites and at a full on a sit down viewing a month, where before it was religiously for me. So I don't know. It just feels like they need a facelift, and I don't know where that comes from. Perhaps Kenny helps them, but I don't think he's like the biggest box office draw of all time. So I don't know where they go from here with that. I don't know. They need some. I don't know what the magic is. Honestly, I don't. All right, Rossi, you are up, and you have the Rossi. You have the worst feud of the year. What do you got for the 2024 worst feud of the year?
So that's actually a good handoff, because I'm going to go with MJF and Adam Cole.
Baby,
and so that's the thing, is they spent so much equity in the last 6 months of 2023 getting to the turn of Cole being the devil and MJF losing his title. Then MJF lost the title on the last show of 2023, and he went away, right? He came back as a babyface at Double or Nothing, he was a babyface for about 2 weeks. He beat up Cole, ran Cole back off TV for a couple of months, and then turned back heel, like pretty much immediately after. Then Max, was lingering as a heel in the feud with Garcia and whatever, kind of a mini feud with Ospreay. And then Cole came back. Now Cole's the baby and Max is the heel. So it's like, what are we doing here? And then we're still dealing with it. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's still going on. These guys seem to be like kind of forever linked to each other. And I think, obviously Cole was hurt at the end of 2023, but they spent such a major angle that they spent so much time on flipping him heel as part of that, obviously you're looking at, big futures in the company for these two guys. And I feel like they're in worse spots now than they have been at any other point throughout their time in AEW. MJF especially. I don't know if it's because he's not the shiny toy anymore and they've got the Ospreays and the Okadas of the world, but I don't think MJF TV right now is must-see TV. And it has been for every other year that he's been in AEW. And I think a lot of that's tied to the mishmash of the booking of how they put all of this together. And it's literally been going on for 18 months now. And they're continuing to try to do it, and it's bogging down their TV. They have a pay-per-view match at World's End, which, depending on when you're listening to this, it probably already happened. They're fighting over that Dynamite Diamond ring that he had however many of the following every year going back to when they first initiated the thing. So I just think it's a feud that's doing neither of them any good. I think they would have been much better off in a point if you did not continue the feud and you just did the write-off of that feud at Double or Nothing, and then Cole got sent back, came back as a babyface, didn't really go near MJF. MJF wasn't on TV that much in the last few months, so it could have very easily been avoided. They did the really stupid booking when MJF, said whoever wins 3 matches first gets to face me at Full Gear, and Roger Strong won 3 first. So then you're just delaying it even more. And it didn't fit for me at all. And I think both guys heading into 2025 are in a much worse spot than they really should be, considering the name and stature of them. I mean, look at when Cole came in 2021. he looked and felt like the second biggest star in the world behind Danielson, who came in on the same night, right? And then MJF was on top of the card all of last year, and now he's just a guy. He's not appointment TV anymore, and I think this feud has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. If anyone wants to add, this is the worst feud of the year. It's just how does Adam Cole go from 2017 to 2019 Adam Cole, to even 2020 Adam Cole, to this? Like he has no inspiration. His body looks like shit. Not that we're body guys ourselves, but I mean, like, he's a walking meme that they even bring onto TV last week to make fun of him. And I don't know. Like, I don't get it. Is he the definition of just cashing a check, going through the motions? Because I know he was very formulaic in ring, and he was a shtick before, but it was such a good shtick. The Rock's a fucking shtick, right? MJF's a shtick. You're a shtick, but if it's a good shtick, it's a good shtick. And now he's just like, he's a walking ghost. I don't even know. I don't know what he is. And then he's hovering around the undisputed guys now, and they're bogging everything down. It's just brutal. But I'm curious, what would the worst WWE feud of the year be?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah.
How about Lashley, the Street Profits versus the
Final
Testament?
That was pretty.
I
That
guess.
was very good.
Mania match was
kind
of
an
fun.
All right match at Mania, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was a good party, man. It was fun. It was a fun shit show.
I mean, Wyatt 6 and Alpha Academy kind of stunk. It hurt.
But they had good matches on TV, two of them.
They did, and it was kind of intriguing at first, but yeah, I mean, I think that's what led me to this, is I really couldn't think of anything WWE that jumped off the page. And I mean, think back to the Cole MJF stuff. Like, those guys headlined Wembley last year, and this year they're at like a middle of the card match on World's End. Like, it just, and that felt like the match that should have headlined Wembley. They were the best part of TV all summer of 2023, and it's just I can't think that anything that happened in WWE this year. I mean, maybe that like Nia Bailey feud was pretty bad. But it was kind of just there. So I don't really feel like it took up enough TV for me to think it was that bad, where this Cole MJF stuff is like still dominating TV, and it's really not. It's very low end from where these guys should be.
No. I was just kind of curious, what you guys would think will come across. All right. But when I was thinking of the Rookie of the Year, it kind of came to me right away, right? So Rookie of the Year is a hard one, right? Is it like Rookie of the Year? Like, what's the parameters, right? So nowadays you feel like the parameter is NXT, but with NXT, it's like, all right, well, he was just in Impact for 4 years, or he was just in AEW for 2 years, or he was in your local indie forever, or he was in Europe for a while. But this guy really did just burst on the screen, and I'm curious, in your guys' opinion, if this guy is like a no-brainer like he was to me, and am I missing anyone? And that is Javon Evans. He did a few level up matches before WrestleMania 40 or TakeOver, Stand and Deliver in NXT world. But after that, he just kind of burst on the scene, and he was like a mainstay within NXT the whole year, having high profile matches, good or not, with Randy Orton or Trick Williams or name your price or name your guy. He's been there, kind of done that. Ilya Dragunov, he had a really good match. So he's delivered really good matches, but with this category, it's like you should see the greenness too and see the growth, right? And you saw that with him, because he's been a walking highlight. He's also been kind of like a walking Bosch machine. So to watch him go through the channels and here and there, but I feel like he has some shit to him, and I think his future is kind of bright, and I think that he is the 2024 Rookie of the Year. Now, with this category being so vague, did I miss anyone or what? Or it's because I don't define it as like a WWE call-up, right? It's hard to determine who in NXT is a quote-unquote rookie nowadays. So what do you guys think?
I think it's such a weird, limited parameter that it kind of, your options are, like you said, they're really limited. And like the fact that he just like was doing level up shit like before WrestleMania is pretty insane, and now he is one of the big main guys there. This was like a pretty obvious pick for me.
Well, then I was like, Obafemi has had a lot, like a better resume, but he's probably a little bit more of a rookie as well, right? Because he had the breakout in 2023, and he was North American champion for the longest time. So also Obafemi as well, but I guess I just went Javon because I think he's more of a real rookie. But then again, Obafemi is also also a rookie as well. So I think that if we were to cast a vote, it would be 50-50. But I felt that Javon would probably win the vote, but I can definitely see Oba's side as well.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody. I was trying to think of AEW when you were talking about that, and nobody really jumps off the page for me there. Like, you can try to make an argument for like a Kyle Fletcher, but he's far from a rookie. He's just kind of his first year as a single, you know? Which that doesn't really apply. So, but I guess to some people it may, because it's like his rookie year as a single, right? So it is a weird category in wrestling, because obviously you can have people that listen to this and they're like, well, Javon Evans was on the indies for so many years before that. But there wasn't like that PC like creation this year that really broke out. I think Obafemi was probably late 2023 more than anything. But yeah, I mean, Javon's a really good pick here.
Yeah, I just felt like he is more of a safer bet due to his age as well, because he's pretty much, his gimmick is that he is also a rookie, right? In a way. So I think it's Oba, or I think it's Javon. I just felt like Javon is the pick and should win. Like, for instance, Breaker won in 2022, Jade Cargill 2021, McAfee 2020, Jungle Boy 2019, Rousey 2018. So I guess those are pretty tighter parameters. In his Jungle Boy debut in 19, I don't know. Was he in GCW before that? I don't know.
Like so, Jungle Boy made sense. Like Ronda, obviously that's a fucking no-brainer when she did it, but like it's kind of weird. It doesn't fit as well anymore as some prior years.
Yeah, no, it's not one that I think they should retire. It's just kind of, what is it, right? Like, it's kind of is what it is in a way. So, I feel like Javon was the best pick. All right, Eller, best and worst weekly TV show. I'm curious about this. What you got, buddy?
So, best weekly TV show, I went with Raw. I was kind of torn. Like, I really liked NXT, but I just didn't know if it was like best. And so I like with the main. I wanted more go with the main roster show, and there was a couple things on SmackDown where, like, after WrestleMania, I thought it got into a little bit of a lull. I thought the Bloodline stuff was good throughout the year, but maybe not as good like around June or so. And Mike had mentioned Bayley and Nia. That was a women's title feud. I don't think Bayley set the world on fire as women's champion. Where Raw, I think, had just like the awesome Punk McIntyre stuff. It had a lot of the Bloodline bled into Raw, and Rhea is a prime, a main part of Raw. And then up until maybe a month or two, I thought the Judgment Day's been great. They've kind of faded a little bit. The commentary teams have been great, whether it's Cole or Michael Cole or Pat McAfee. I've really liked Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett. I think Joe's done an awesome job of just feeling like he's been part of the show for years when he's just debuted like 4 or 5 months ago. NXT might be my favorite because it's just so goofy and it flies by, and they have like 900 segments with 900 different characters. But so Raw, I just think Raw is the most consistent, even at 3 hours, and for a lot of the year and 2 hours at the end of the year, I thought it was the best. For worst, I don't want to. I was torn on this because I didn't want it to come off like I'm trying to be like a hot take artist or anything like that. But my worst pick of the year was Dynamite. Collision is just like a whatever show, and Rampage is harmless. it's like an hour of nothing, and like it's getting canceled, and it might, depending on when this airs, it may have already been canceled, but the 27th, I believe it's the last ever Rampage. With Dynamite, the reason I think it's the worst is this is supposed to be your flagship show, and it's where you've had a lot of really rough angles take place. The starting with the beginning of like the Undisputed Kingdom after World's End 2023, they're taking over the company, and then the Young Bucks are taking over the company, and it's really, really bad and just not interesting whatsoever. Coupled with Okada turning into a comedy character, they kind of fade out, and you've got this Death Riders thing where just the heels are just beating the shit out of the baby faces week after week after week without the baby faces getting anything involved in there. Adding that to what I think is a pretty rough commentary team, I just think that they could do so much more, and sometimes I just have a hard time watching sometimes, just because these 4 5-star matches can only take you so far, and when you have a lot of bad storylines going on at the same time, it makes it really hard to watch.
Yeah, there's got to be something like NWA Power, right? That's like offensively bad, and it's just like. But if you look at the viewership, right, it's hard to look at viewership because it is a declining metric in a way. But when your show declines a lot faster and accelerates a lot faster than the metrics of the declining metric, which is ratings, then I guess you got something wrong. But I don't know. I think there's probably so much good wrestling, quote unquote, within AEW that it's hard to call it like a worse show when Power has like bad stories, bad characters, no star power, and bad wrestling. I guess that's why I always thought that Raw being like the worst promotion or the worst show on TV was always kind of blasphemy, when there was always like horrible TV show like Wow Women's Wrestling. Who's that for? Like, you know what I mean? But for you to say Raw is the best now, also people would say it's the worst because it's 3 hours. But for it to be the best, and you to kind of outline perhaps Feud of the Year with Punk and Drew, Punk a regular TV character on it week to week, Rollins not being awful all the time as a character now, guys like Drew having career years. Yeah, Cody spending a lot of time there to begin the year. Yeah, he'll live, Rhea, Judgment Day, Priest having growth, and then Gunther wrestling bi-weekly or monthly, whatever, all the time as well.
The growth of Braun, the growth of Jey Uso.
Oh, Jey Uso is the most over character. Jey Uso is probably most charismatic than Wade, just to kind of have a little backtracking there as well. How did I miss that one?
Yeah,
right?
I completely missed it too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't. Raw might be you're probably right. Which would be when it was the worst for a decade leading in, but that's 3 hours was people's excuse to put it there when there was a lot of decent stuff within that 3 hours, but it was also a chore. But being a chore, AEW might be a chore as well. And with no, people want to say there's no stories, but there kind of is no stories, but there's such good wrestling from a week to week basics. Probably you could easily say there's probably the best weekly match is on an AEW show as well. So I don't know. It's hard to say the worst, but I guess it's taste, right? And I guess we just ain't feeling AEW, especially till the tail end here. So perhaps for us, it could be as well. I don't think you're wrong, Eller. I'm just trying to talk it out. Ross, you want to put that together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you can easily call Dynamite the worst because it's probably the most disappointing, right?
That's what he's saying too, right? Yeah.
Like to call like an NWA the worst, like that's like low hanging fruit. Like it is supposed to be the worst, But back to the Raw point, I think that this year we saw Raw kind of get transitioned back to being the A show again. McAfee had a lot to do with that, I think, but they did the big Rock Cody angle on there when he beat him up by the bus. Rock did the segment early in the year when he called out Roman. It just felt like, and that was done, because they're going to Netflix for sure.
Yeah.
But you saw that transition, and everybody poo-pooed on Raw being 3 hours for however long. It kind of fell off when it went to 2. It took them a little bit to get their feet wet again. And, obviously as they go to Netflix, it sounds like it's going to be, maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe 2.5 some weeks. So they're going to have some leeway there. But I think they did a lot more character growth on Raw this year than they did on SmackDown. SmackDown was pretty much the Bloodline show, other than like the Jacob Fatus of the world, who really broke out on SmackDown. I mean, your tag division picked up steam late in the year, but like a Mello came in and didn't really do a lot. Like he had good matches.
Honestly, disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Raw, it's like Braun was built up. A guy like Kaiser was built up. War Raiders came back. They had the really cool New Day angle. There was a lot of if we were to say the best 10 WWE TV moments this year, 7 or 8 of them were probably on Raw. So I think it's definitely the choice. And Ella, to your point, I would try to talk myself into NXT on this too, because I do think, maybe it's because of Monday Night Football, but I find myself watching NXT the most consistently. And it's because of I don't want to say train wreck value because that makes it sound bad, but it kind of is, because you don't really know what the hell is going to happen every week. Like if you're predicting the matches on that show week over week, there's always surprises. And I think like the Ethan Page of the world kind of like stabilized it as far as like a TV product for a bit. So NXT is definitely one that, the CW transition was really cool, and it feels like a bigger deal now. So, but yeah, I'm with you guys or with you, Eller, on everything that you said about the 2, because to me, you're right. Dynamite used to be appointment viewing for me too. It's not anymore. And that's what would make that the worst, because it's the biggest disappointment.
Yeah, it's good. I guess expectations are a lot to do with that as well. So I don't think either of you are wrong. My thing is just putting my thumb on. Each week you probably pick a best match of the week, and it's probably on an AEW show, right? I think that's probably something to say.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying too.
Yeah, but that's also a detriment. Like they're not investing in stories, they're not investing in characters, and if they are, they're shit stories and they're whatever, or the wrong character, right? Or they're making characters that were over fucking worse, a la Adam Cole we were just fucking talking about. MJF is the same guy, and once they tried transitioning away from something else with MJF, he stopped becoming MJF. So it was just like, it's just, yeah, it's like you do if you don't, but I don't think they can. So it is what it is. All right, I am up. Oh, actually, sorry, Rossi, you're up. Best and worst major wrestling show. So PLE or pay-per-view, I would assume, or Saturday Night Main Event, whatever. Right? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll go with best show first. I don't think this one's going to be shocking to anybody, but WrestleMania.
Yep.
If I had to pick just one of the 2 nights, I'd probably pick 2, just because of how big it felt. How you had 2 world title changes bookending the show. One of which, the end of. Oh yeah,
Drew?
Well, I guess I'm.
Yeah,
right.
Drew in the first.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking like the open close, but yeah, Bailey
God,
did too.
I'm fucking with you, buddy.
But then like Logan Paul and KO was good, and Orton, and that was good. That was a good mix. Knight and AJ kind of what was what it was, but between the Drew Punk angle that really took that thing off, Priest winning with the cash in, all the way to what was probably the best, most entertaining 10 minutes of a wrestling show this year at the tail end of that Roman Cody match, and the Sam Irvin announcement, which is just so iconic. It just felt like you were watching something special and something you were going to be telling people about and talking about for decades, right? It was that first like real close to Mania that felt that way in a while. And it was just an iconic show. And then,
it's history,
I don't,
man. 3.5 years, 4 years.
And you don't want to really poo-poo the first night either. I mean, Becky and Rhea crushed it to open the show. The only thing that really disappointed on that first night was like that 2-match stretch between the Uso match and like that Cargill, Bianca, Naomi 6-way. But Sammy and Gunther crushed it. You had a really good ladder match. Even like that Mysterio Andrade tag match was kind of more fun than it should have been. It was just a show that over-delivered. I think that, like I said, it just felt huge. It felt like, the Rock's involvement, pinning Cody on night 1 and then getting his comeuppance the next night. Everybody wanted Austin, but then the Taker pop was just as big. Cena returning was cool. They just really put a fun show together, and it kind of like there were people that watched that show that weren't even wrestling fans that popped for it. So I think that anybody that says that wasn't the show of the year is just a fool. You know what I mean? And worst show, kind of disagreeing with what I said before about like how can a show that wasn't supposed to be great be the worst? But so I kind of have two answers to this. I think if I had to just pick the worst main show, I'd probably go with Crown Jewel, mostly because it just kind of, I think it hurt a guy like Gunther. He didn't have to take a loss there. It just kind of got pigeonholed into it. And they did a good job coming out of that with like him being down on his luck, heading into the priest match. Nia lost when she probably shouldn't have because she didn't have much momentum to begin with. There really wasn't enough of a tease with like Tiff and stuff. You did have some good secondary matches. The LA Knight 3-way was good. Seth and Reed were good. But I think if you could say to a non-fan, hey, if that fan said to you, which WWE show, if I had to skip one all year, would it be? You'd pick that one. So I just think it was, I'll be honest with you guys. I watched the Cody Gunther match and the tail end of the Nia Liv match, and I never really went back and watched the rest of it. It was something that I wasn't really excited about to begin with. And kind of what I was talking about before with AEW, how I only really watch their pay-per-views. I can't really sit and say that there was a bad AEW pay-per-view because they had a couple of really cool matches, really good moments in all of them. Yeah, maybe they're a little bit too long, but I don't think any of them are really disappointing. And in fact, some of them over-delivered. So like, I really think an AEW fan, if they only watch pay-per-views, would be a lot happier. I feel like I am. But there's really nothing else that sticks out to me. But if I did have to kind of throw a honorable mention in, just because of kind of a disappointment level of what we were talking about with Dynamite before, I'm going to throw the Rumble in because, you had that Rock moment early in on that day one show of Raw, and everybody kind of expected them to get mixed into the Rumble. I think the end of the Rumble was kind of screwy with the fact that Punk got hurt. I think people didn't want Cody to win it. They were trying to figure out how everything went there. I thought the women's Rumble match was pretty abysmal. And the secondary matches, like I had to look up what they even were. It was like a Rhodes 4-way, and then I'm sorry, not a Rhodes 4-way, a Reigns 4-way, and like Logan and KO, which wasn't a bad match, but it just, I feel like the Rumble's been kind of disappointing for a couple years in a row now. And it just, maybe it's in layout, maybe it's just in having higher expectations than we should have. But I just feel like it kind of fell a little bit flat. And if I had to pick most disappointing, it would be Rumble. But the question's worst, so I guess I've got to say Crown Jewel.
Yeah, with the most disappointing first, if that Rumble show is in contention, you've had a really good year, right? So that's that. And Crown Jewel is like highlighting all the worst traits about the WWE and the Saudi relationship, right? It's that show was just like forcing whatever bullshit they fucking bought down our throats, right? So what is the Crown Jewel Championship? Well, it's something to make them happy. It's not for us, it's for them. And there should be no show not about us, in my opinion. So that's probably why it's the worst, in my opinion. And with 40, is there anything geekier than separating WrestleMania into two nights and be like, right, WrestleMania night 2 was the pay-per-view of the year? Is there anything more fucking geekier than that? Is there?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Because like this year, what's night 2? Like, how good is that Cody moment if him and Rollins win on night 1? Right? Like they kind of need this, and that's not always been that way, but I feel like this year in particular, you need to talk about both nights because things happened. Rollins got hurt in night 1.
It's WrestleMania.
Right.
It's one fucking
it all
event. I don't care that it's 2 nights, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't care that it's 2 nights. It's fucking WrestleMania. It's one pay-per-view. It's one PLE. I don't care if it's separate nights. It's the most dorkiest thing. If you fucking do Observer, you write WrestleMania night 2, fucking pay-per-view of the year, you're a fucking dork.
Yeah.
It's WrestleMania.
And I mean,
40.
WrestleMania 35 may have been just as long as like night 1 and 2 combined this year. Like it's like I think you're really splitting hairs. It's one thing. It's easy. Just it's one.
Yeah, for sure.
Agree.
All right, Eller, you got anything to add there, or you want me to? You ready to move on to yours?
I think Mike nailed it. Like anything I say is just repeating it. So no, and yeah, the AEW shows their pay-per-views are the best part of the company. So
it's just unfortunate with them. It's just, could you distinguish the difference between Dynasty and World's End? And
you probably can't. You probably can't. But like, there's
all in,
one,
all out.
right?
Like,
I mean,
double or nothing.
The way that Will Ospreay did pay-per-view matches this year, you can't call any of the shows that had those on those bad. You know.
Oh no, but I'm just saying what hurts.
I agree with you though.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, I could probably name my favorite 5 AEW pay-per-view matches this year, but struggled to figure out which show they were on. Yeah, so I agree with you there. So to that point, but then it's just like, which one do you pick? Like, I didn't think that all in, I don't think was a great show this year, but like I still sat down and watched it for 4 hours and had a pretty good time with it, you know? So I don't think that it, maybe lived up to the hype of what it would be, but there's still a good show. There's still really cool moments. It's also not their
fault. They're 5 years into existence. They don't have a lot of history, but I don't know. Less is more, not more is more. Is with their TV deals is what you've kind of realized. So yeah, but I get they're into making money, so I guess volume is the way of they making money. So whatever. All right, I'm up actually. The best high flyer, technical wrestler, and brawler. I'll start with high flyer. Nathan Frazier or Will Ospreay. Am I looking past it being not being Will Ospreay? Is it going to be someone from Mexico? Probably. Delfingo has been out all year, so he's hurt, right?
Yeah, I'd say Ospreay. Ospreay's probably not even pigeonholed into that anymore. I think he kind of calmed a lot of that shit down. So I don't think I think Frazier is probably where I would go to.
Same.
Yeah. He's probably the most impressive, and that's not like they teach him to go with the high flying spots. They try to teach him the WWE style, where a high spot, right, or a high flying maneuver is a transition or a finishing move or whatever, where it's in other promotions, it's like a sequence. So he's a little bit at a disadvantage in a way, right? But having WWE style and him sticking out with his high flying attributes kind of says a lot. And he is such a peak athlete too, as well. So it's probably, is it a detriment to him for this category? Perhaps, but it's also the WWE style probably highlights his athleticism as a high flyer in a way as well. Watching him move in person when I went to Lowell 2 weeks ago was incredible. He's just, I don't know, peak athleticism. And he stands out. So is Nathan Frazier going to win high flyer of the year? Probably not. Will Ospreay? Ospreay is so goddamn impressive, and a lot of it, he's getting better, like getting away from this, like you said, Mike. But I don't think this is like a negative category. Like, I think I want to look at it as like a positive category, as a high flyer. And both those guys shine within their match structure whenever they go to their aerial assault, right? Let's put it that way. So those are my two picks. I would probably give it to Frazier because I think he's a little bit at a disadvantage structure-wise, and him sticking out is just so goddamn impressive. And I don't think he's trying to, and what I like about him as well, I don't think he's trying to win this award, where other guys would perhaps go out there to try to win this award within the structure that they have matches. So I'm going to move on from there. Technical wrestler, Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, let's move on. Or Zack Sabre Jr. I just haven't seen enough of him. I've seen more Bryan, but it's either one of those two, and I think I'm going to move on. In WWE, perhaps Gable, right? If I were to pick someone from that company, but I think it's Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. The fucking names, the category is named after him, right?
Yeah.
And the best brawler, I like KO personally. I think Moxley is too reliant on it, but where Kevin Owens can go out and look at his crown jewel match with Randy Orton. He legit just had a brawl, and that was the segment. For him to be that compelling and carrying it, his style with Cody has been a fresh air, and that's kind of like a brawling style. I like that the edge that he's brought to Cody with his style, but I think Moxley is too reliant on it. But I feel like Moxley's probably going to win it. But the guy that I kind of thought would be cute to mention was Braun Breaker. His urgency when he brawls, his chaotic energy is in a way is interesting in a way for him to mention as a brawler. And I wouldn't even know if I would call him a brawler, but his aura and his attitude is like a brawling nature that I thought it would be kind of fun to bring up. If I were to pick a winner, it's probably going to be Moxley, but my winner would be KO. Anyone I miss, any out of those three categories that I missed or you thought was interesting or what?
I'm on the same page. I would go KO because I think like when he does brawl, it's like way more vicious, or it means more when he does it.
Yeah.
Maybe because Moxley's character I just find is so rough right now and just don't enjoy him that like it takes the brawling aspect away. Kingston's won this a lot, but he got hurt way too early in the year, so he
wasn't even around this year.
Yeah, I think he nailed it. There's nobody
Is
really
Breaker out of pocket from a brawling aspect? I have no idea. I looked at his style, and it's just like some of his movements are you wouldn't think he's a brawler, but his style is pretty brawling-ish, right?
I guess it is, but they talk about his speed so much and like his rope to rope speed, but maybe you just kind of lose sight of it.
To get around to there is brawler-ish, right? I think.
Yeah, I think what might put that in your head is how much they've showcased him doing the like running spear on the outside. I feel like anything that happens outside just makes us think brawl. But yeah,
it was a good punch too, right?
As far as brawling goes, I think that I think this is probably going to be the last year when Jacob Fatu is not in this conversation. Because I think you'll start seeing him have more matches in 2025 and probably higher profile ones. But I mean, and he could fit into even high flyer too. Like he's somebody that just everything he does is impressive, but he looks like he's in the match to beat the shit out of you. So like Gunther, I guess brawling as well, but he does everything else so well. It's tough to typecast him as one thing. High flyer, I kind of want to give a shout to like an Io Sky. Because I feel like she does a lot of things that no other woman does. And honestly, the most impressive high flying move of the year was probably the Bronson Reed Tsunami. Because of how useful it was in getting him over as a character. So in a way that kind of fits as well. But I don't argue what you said. I just think some people to look forward to in these categories in the coming years will, like you said before, like a Javon Evans. I think he's going to continue to excel in that high flying aspect. And Fatu, like I said, he's going to be everything he does looks like a legitimate fight. So I think he's going to be winning that category a lot in the future.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to mute Eller since he's got some background noise. And while Eller is off on a tangent doing whatever he's up to.
I am it's a dog emergency, but I am back.
No, are you back, Eller?
I'm back.
All right, then I won't skip you, buddy. I was going to give Rossi next, but Eller, why don't you give us the worst match of the year?
For worst match of the year, this is kind of like at the same, like where I was torn a little bit, where is this really the worst match of the year or is it just the most disappointing? And so I've got two picks. The first is from WWE and it's Jimmy versus Jay at WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
Ryan, we actually did the podcast about this one and we were both pretty excited about it. And I just don't think it was I don't think it was good at all. I was pretty disappointed. It never reached really any gear, which just stinks because I think they could have. I'm not saying they're going to have Brett Owen, but at least like Jeff and Matt from WrestleMania 25, brother versus brother. So it was really disappointing to me that they just were doing super kicks and just a dead finish. And they did so much better. They just did so much better work in other like at the main event of like they're just Jay spearing Jimmy off the ramp. So I just found it to be very disappointing. And I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on that, but I did want to add another worst match was from a Dynamite earlier in the year in April. It was Billy Gunn versus Jay White, where Billy Gunn just beat the shit out of Jay White for like 10 minutes. And then it just ended with a DQ and Billy Gunn winning. And
I was at that show.
Were you really?
Yeah, that was in Worcester. Yeah.
It was right before WrestleMania, yeah.
I remember hearing, like, when that match got announced, I was like, fuck yeah, Billy Gunn.
And it didn't, I don't know. It just, like, this guy, Jay White's supposed to be a star. And, like, when he came in, he was supposed to be one of your big signings. And then he's getting his ass beat by a 6-year-old dude. Those were, I know that there's, like, other things from, like, an NXT level up that I can go to, but those were, like, the two that really, really stuck out to me.
Yeah, the Usos match is probably going to win. Should it win? I'm not sure, but we talk about disappointment all the time, and that was like a 1 3/4 match. It felt like that they got creative for the rest of the year, told to them, and then they were like, all right, you guys have 8 minutes, and, you know, you guys are going to be together at the end of the year, so we missed our mark, and you guys, we're kind of pissed at you guys for fucking forcing us to do this at WrestleMania when we should have done this in the fall of 2023 when it was fucking hot coming off of SummerSlam. So this one's on you guys. You have 8 minutes and you really only have like one transition in the match, and the heat's going to be heatless because Jimmy, he's just a tag guy at the end of the day. I hate to say it, right? And there's no juice there. And yeah, it's probably going to win. It is the most disappointing. I remember being like, that's it. Like, you guys are going to run out and have your moment on night 2. And then, like I said earlier, you guys are going to be teaming in War Games and be back by fucking October. So it is what it is, guys.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this is something I feel like you have to talk about disappointment. Like, we could dig in and probably find like a Ivy Nile match or something that was atrocious, or a Sonya Deville match that sucked. Not to single them out, but just the first two that popped in my head. But there's really nothing that disappointed me more this year than the Jay and Jimmy match. I thought it was going to be great, and it stunk. And you know, they're like I said, there's probably a Jericho match out there that's up there. But
yeah, fucking Jericho's definitely on this shit.
But I mean, you're not going into those expecting it to be good at this point. So I think at the end of the day, this has to be Jay and Jimmy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate too because that was probably a very highly anticipated match. It hasn't hurt Jey Uso though. That motherfucker's over as shit. So
I did hear Jey Uso in an interview say that that's the one match he needs to redo. So that kind of makes me feel better about shitting on it, because he said, you know, due to the time that we got, we didn't really get to tell the story we had planned. So I hope that they get another shot at it when it makes sense to do so, you know.
For sure. All right, Rossi, best and worst gimmick of the year.
All right, so best gimmick for me, I'm going to say when Rock transitioned over to the Final Boss. I just think that it really brought everything, and everybody was down on what was going on. They wanted The Rock and The Rock to not be involved. They wanted Cody to get his title match. Rock kind of had to just pivot on a dime. And that Vegas press conference, when he walked by Triple H and he's pretty much, I forget what he said, but he was like, tell that guy to learn some fucking respect or whatever he said. And then he was like magma, lava on TV every week. This guy, between the beatdown and just how he carried himself, his entrance became so much more badass. Him calling that Arizona crowd crackheads. There were just like, I could keep going about what The Rock did in like a 2-month span with that character. Added so much juice to that WrestleMania show, to bookend, you know, to be the end moment of both of those nights, and made them feel so much bigger than they would have felt otherwise. I called that the show of the year, and I think The Rock was the main ingredient in that because he brought more fans in. He made that just feel like a bigger deal, and it gave us Hollywood Rock that we wanted. Everybody knew that was like the best form of rock. We never thought we would get it in 2024, but he brought it in and he turned it up to 1,000. And I just thought he absolutely crushed that character and how he kind of presented it with the Instagram promos, him with the cowboy hat on. There was just, I could talk for years about how good this 2-month stretch was. And I really struggle. I was trying to find somebody other than that because it feels like a cop-out. But I feel like he turned that character into something that was just so perfectly executed, and he was just so detestable. He was somebody that it was so easy. These Mama Rhodes, like it was so goddamn good. Before I get into worst, do you guys have any other options with that?
I don't know, man. There's like no new gimmick out there that's like transcended or anything, but The Rock coming back as the final boss, which sidebar, I would think he is going to be like the corporate guy next in like, I think he's going to be the corporate Rock next time he comes around. But anyways, yeah, for him just to pivot, because he was kind of getting heat, and then he took all that heat and brought it to TV in a good way, and did the right thing by making Cody. Yeah, I guess that would be like, historically, the new flavor of the week always kind of wins this. And yeah, I think it's The Rock.
He's my pick. And then like that new theme where it's a lot of that Hollywood Rock theme is just chef's kiss. Perfect.
And he does benefit from being on for a short time too, to maximize his minutes and leave a lasting impression. Because he really was on for 6 weeks, if that, right?
Yeah, think of like he impacted wrestling more in 6 weeks than any other person did this year in 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's
Jey Uso a gimmick, maybe honorable mention, but yeah.
I was
overall,
thinking him, but it's like it gets to a degree. His music is a gimmick, right? Like that Backlash France intro is right there. And then I kind of, before I get into worst, I kind of wanna give the Wyatt Six a little bit of a shout out. Because when you first heard that was going to happen and who was going to be involved with it, it was like, oh boy, how bad is this going to be? And then it's kind of dipped off over time, but the first like month or two that was on TV was pretty goddamn electric. What were you guys' thoughts on how that all came together?
It was memorable. Yeah.
They've done a good job. I mean, you like you said, like, Sam Shaw or Dexter Lumis has been involved in some really bad shit. Joe Gacy, bad, really rough stuff. But no, they're good. They're not pushed too much. They don't show up every week. They don't just take over shows and make it like really rough. I've enjoyed it, and I did not to speak ill of those who've passed. I did not like a lot of Bray Wyatt stuff, but this has been all right.
Well, it's slotted perfectly in the mid card. The expectations are low. They're not sucking up valuable TV time, taking away from top stars and making them look stupid. So you got a little bit of that with Gable, but I feel like in 2025, Gable is going to reap a reward of kind of making those guys last year. So I feel that it was just enough, and it didn't really like expose them to a point where in past, Vince would highlight so much of it that we'd be done with it in a week or two. So I don't know. I think it's a good mix and it's benefiting them. But do they deserve to win this? Probably not.
All right. And then worst gimmick, I am going to go with the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. From the in-ring, he had 3 real stinkers with Hook. One was a 3-way with Shibata, which was the worst of the 3. They had kind of a fun brawl for a little bit at All In, but it was almost too much. And if you had to fast forward through one match on that show, it was that one. He got a pretty good match with Briscoe at Wrestle Dream. The match with Ishii on that Dynamite wasn't bad. He had a decent match with Suzuki, but that character we've got to talk about. You think when you do a learning tree and his branches, that the branches would look better coming out of it. Brian Keith is the biggest geek on TV. They had a lot of equity built up with Big Bill after his tag run with Starks. And I feel like he's just a guy on TV now when he's such a huge monster that he should stick out on TV. And that's kind of how AEW doesn't know how to book their big men between your Hobbs and your Wardlows and now the Big Bill. When this learning tree first started, I thought of it as, it's a good way to get other people over. Not only did he not get other people over, I think he kind of killed all of Hook's momentum. The FTW title became something that he had to force himself into winning, and then it got retired. And now we sit at the end of 2024, and he's still the ROH champion, which I get that he really, that's probably on him because they're trying to get a TV deal for it. But is the network going to look at Chris Jericho right now and be like, yeah, we got to get that guy on my TV? And then they watch the TV and he's like waving like a goofball and doing the weird cadence. I just think it's the worst Jericho character. I mean, sometimes you get a kick out of it. But I think it's the worst Jericho character that he's done in a while. He normally reinvents himself pretty well. But I hate the in-ring segments when they set up the tree. It feels so out of place on AEW TV, and you kind of need some things too. But it sticks out like a sore thumb. I think everybody that gets involved with feuds with him looks like more of a goof coming out of it than it did going in. And I hate everything about it at this point. I was hoping it would be like a 2 or 3 month thing, and here we are 9 to 10 months later and it's still going on, and he's still carrying a belt around with it. So I struggled to find anything worse than this. What did you guys think?
Didn't we put the belt on him like a year or 2 years ago to get a TV deal? Like, what are we doing?
Exactly. And then he does Final Battle, and you're like, all right, maybe this is a good way to elevate somebody in ROH, and they make it fucking Matt Cardona, who isn't even under contract with the company just because he's from New York.
And he had an online argument. Yeah.
He showed up and did a GCW show. Nobody gave a shit. It's just Jericho. The star's fallen so sharply on Jericho, and we're still trying to reinvent him, and we're hurting other people along the way now.
I will say, though, hi, guys, is kind of over with me. But it's so stupid. It's so bad. It's good. Yeah, dude, come on. You know how I feel about Jericho. Can you believe he won all these awards in 2019? The guy, he is closer to 2019 Jericho. 2019. Let me rephrase that. 2019 Jericho is closer to now than his prime. So to kind of go with that, I get it. But to still be going with that at this level is, I don't know, a little ridiculous. And low-key, Big Bill had some momentum in 2024, and they stuck it with Jericho, and he's DOA. It was Brian Keith. He's all right, I guess, but I don't know. It's pretty whack. Let's put it. It's corny. It's dorky. It's AEW. So I don't know. Anything else? Anything in from the WWE, Eller, you could think of, or what do you think of the learning tree?
No, I think this takes the cake. I thought I guess I'll add the Young Bucks and like their succession thing. I thought that sucked too, and really would drag the life out of shows.
Tony Khan taking the pile driver. Honestly, the Death Riders as a gimmick is not what it would or should or could be. I don't know. They're character wise, they're gimmick wise, they're a mess. So
Okada's been goofed up, and I mean it's entertaining. Like I'm still laughing at him calling people a bitch and flipping off the bird, but when is it going to change? And I guess Omega's going to come back and they'll probably get more serious, but I don't know. I feel like that I kind of agree with that whole Young Bucks thing, and who knows? Maybe it all ends up being tied together with the Death Riders. We'll see.
But whatever, I'm over it. I'm
not that makes it good. Yeah, not that that makes it good, but yeah, and that was the thing is like I originally was thinking about like what was the Lashley Street Profits group called?
The Pride?
The Pride. Yeah. I was like, where are they going with this?
I don't even know but it was low card. It wasn't your TV show.
Right.
The and Death then Riders I think of like, is their TV show.
Right. And then I think of like the Final Testament. I feel like that actually got better as the year went on.
Caught its footing, Yeah.
Like you can kind of see it now. But yeah, I mean, and is that really a gimmick as much as it's just guys grouped together, right? So yeah, I mean, there's really not like you were saying earlier. It's not really wrestling's probably got less gimmicks than ever right now. But yeah.
All right, I'm up, and my Class B category is going to be best wrestling maneuver. And man, there's a lot of fucking wrestling maneuvers. But I'm going to go with one that I feel is pretty cool. We've talked about Ospreay a lot here, and I just think his hidden blade is fantastic. I think he does such a good job of using his whole body to make it look devastating. He can hit it on anyone, which is important in my opinion, right? And I don't know, it's such a simple move, but his athleticism makes it look so wow. And yeah, but honestly, as of late, another one that I considered here is the package pile driver that Kevin Owens is using, because it's just so goddamn impactful. I think a week before on SmackDown, before KO hit this on Orton on SmackDown, what do we have? Orange Cassidy doing a pile driver on getting it, and then he's like kicking it out from Utah Wheeler. And I know it's Utah Wheeler, but I like calling him Utah Wheeler. But it's just taking a banned move. What should it be banned? Sure. But for AEW to use it as like a transition move or a false finish, and taking that and bringing it to WWE TV, and then just first with Randy, then with Cody, it fits his persona. I don't know. It's just probably the most impactful move of 2024, but the coolest move is the hidden blade, in my opinion. I don't want to say the Tiger Driver. I think that's like the way that they build matches around that is, I don't know, it's kind of whatever, right? But I don't know. I feel like the hidden blade is like a cool ass move.
I was going to say the Tiger Driver. Yeah, go ahead, Eller.
No, I was going to say hidden blade would be my pick.
Yeah. It's just awesome. He can hit on everyone, and it's simple, but it's magnifying his athleticism. And it's not, you shouldn't try this at home, but that's a move that you could do to your brother, and it helps him get over. It's a move you could do to your sister. It's a move you can do to your neighbor. It's a move you could do to your dad, right? So, I think it's awesome and it's simple. So that's my move of the year.
Yeah, just like my sense on the Tiger Driver is like it can get kind of wonky, but I do like how they did it this year with, he hit it on Danielson, and then he kind of just like was afraid to use it, and then he pulled it back out on MJF when MJF deserved it. So I thought that was kind of the best usage of a move this year. But again, the hidden blade still looks more impressive.
Yeah.
Consistent.
All right. Eller, the best and the worst TV announcer for 2024.
Okay. Best TV announcer, and it's just wild that I'm picking Michael Cole because there's many years I would say he's the worst. But I love that he's the voice of WWE. I thought that his call of Cody winning the title was just incredible. Like this whole, I love pro wrestling. Yeah. Just like, we were there. Go ahead. Sorry. We were there live, and we didn't hear the call, but like when I got back to the hotel, I get all these texts about listen to this end of the match. I watched it like 3 more times, just the end of it. And he does a great job of making, I don't know, he's just like the voice of the WWE, and I feel like he's great, and he feels a lot more like he did in 2002 to 2006, where he comes off pretty goofy, but for big matches, he's always up to the occasion. He stopped doing a lot of the Vince stuff now that he's not getting screamed at all the time. And I really like him. I really don't have a problem with any of the WWE guys. I think that Kevin Patrick was the worst, but he was gone by February. So like, that's not, I don't know. He's not a huge problem, but I thought Graves did a very good job. I really like Joe Tessitore. I love Vic on NXT. I think he and Booker was horrible to start, but they
mesh well together.
They have a good rapport. But I'll go into worse, but I'd love to hear what your guys' best pick would be.
I don't know. Like I always like Taz. I think he's the best mix of character and insightfulness while being entertaining. It's funny that you mentioned Cole because he's probably has the most worsts on anyone, but it's also due to longevity. And for him to improve being in the WWE for his 25th year and he's still improving just shows how much he cares, and he's not phoning it in, and he cares, and he loves where the company's at right now, and he's the ultimate company guy. And is he the best? Perhaps. I don't think it's McAfee. McAfee was kind of like what his top guy announcer run was like a blimp on the screen. It felt like, and he might be the worst, honestly, but I don't know. I like Barrett. I like Barrett a lot. I think he's really good as well. And I don't know. I'm curious why Vic hasn't moved up, right? I know he's not needed, perhaps, and being the voice of NXT isn't a bad thing whatsoever. So I don't know. This is probably the category I care least about, and honestly, I don't care, just to be frank.
I'm thinking more about like what's going to happen in 2025 as we're talking about this, because obviously you're going to have Cole and McAfee together, and I love Pat, so I think getting him into like that Netflix world is very smart because he's such a big star. But they haven't announced yet if it's going to be Tessitore with. Are you assuming Graves?
Oh,
are they going to do all three of them?
It's a 3-way on SmackDown and a 2-way on Netflix.
Okay.
Is that for sure?
Yeah, they announced that way back in the day.
And then will the pay-per-view still be Cole and Graves?
I have no
Maybe
idea.
with McAfee on the big ones. I think the Cole, Graves, McAfee trio, when they've done it a little bit, has been really good. I think Graves and McAfee go at it in a way that I think is really good and entertaining. Tessitore and Barrett has worked pretty much right away, and Joe had a couple rough first weeks, but he got there. But obviously worst, like I'm not going to talk about worst yet, but there is a lane out there, and I'll let you go, Eller, because I don't want to say this part yet.
Okay. So for my worst, so I don't want to just shit on AEW. So I will, I thought about Booker, but Booker makes me laugh too much, and he's just says off the wall shit too much, and I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? But I don't know. I don't really hate him, and he does add a lot. He helps with Trick, and he helps put over Roxanne Perez, with her working in Reality of Wrestling. So I just think he does enough good that I wouldn't pick him for my worst. I don't know what Tony Schiavone adds, so he was my pick for my worst. Everything is just on, and he's just everywhere. Absolutely, he's on every show. He doesn't add anything on Dynamite. He adds absolutely. I mean, Rampage. If you watch, he absolutely nothing. I have no idea why he has to be on that too. And then he's the play-by-play on Collision, and that's probably where I wouldn't even say he's his best, but he does okay with Nigel. But Nigel's really good in my opinion. So I don't know how many people would be bad with Nigel. But just the amount of that's great or this is just amazing. And it's
he's totally checked out. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just kind of telling your audience you're full of shit. Because it's you're telling people that something that's great is not great. Well, something that isn't great is great. So he won pretty easily for me, honestly. But Mike, I know you were saying that you had an idea, so I'd love to hear what you said.
Yeah, so I think the thing about the AEW announce team is I don't get why they have to have 4 or 5 people at all times, right? I think that there's a good announce team there that they I think an Excalibur and Taz alone might work. I actually kind of like Matt Menard when he does his thing, but there's too many people on these shows. There's too many chefs in the kitchen. And I really wish with them having, 3 shows, that's now going to become 2. Maybe they go back to 3 down the road. I really hope that they kind of realize that and they give, 2 of them one spot and they give another 2 another spot. And I feel like Excalibur is going to always be everywhere, but he doesn't have to be, right? The pay-per-views are there's a constant rotations. JR comes in and you never really know when he's good and when he's on, when he cares, when he doesn't care. And then Schiavone has his moments kind of like that too. Half the things that are going on, I don't even think Schiavone knows what it is. And then you'll randomly have him and Taz that just start giving each other shit for no reason. there's a lot of talent there with the people that they have. If I could pick one thing for AEW to do, it would be to just dumb down their announce teams, kind of like how WWE, we kind of know, hey, there's 2 here, 2 or 3 here. Do that. It'll make your shows feel differently too. And like I said, I think Taz could win Best Announcer a lot of years if he wasn't surrounded with so much gaga and bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
To me, the worst is Shivani. I agree with that, but it's just like he's so endeared now. He went away for fucking 15 years. He did the podcast that was really good, and he came back, but he doesn't prep. He doesn't know any of these guys. He's phoned in, you could tell. Like the guy I like the least is Excalibur, but I could never call him the worst because I know that there is an audience for him, and I would just be totally biased saying he's the worst. I just think he's a dork. Like, I don't find him interesting. I don't find him like fun. I think that he hurts the product from like his nerdiness in a way. It's like with the mask and all, and there's no connectiveness. And if you're a casual viewer, they're gonna pan to your announcers open the show. You see a guy with a fucking mask. You're like, yeah, this ain't for me, dog. But yeah, I'm with you, Eller. Cole, and then Shivani. That's funny too because a few years ago it was probably flipped, right?
Yeah.
So, interesting. All right, up next is Mike Rossi, and you have the most overrated and the most underrated.
All right, I'm gonna go most overrated. Jack Perry, and here's the deal: do I really think he's overrated? Kind of, because he's been carried around a title for the bulk of this year, and let's call it what it is. This guy got pushed because of what happened with CM Punk, right? They debuted him as the scapegoat in New Japan in a show in Chicago because they knew he would get heat. The heat wasn't really as good as they thought it would be. They bring him back and they throw him with the Bucks because the Bucks already have heat, hoping he can piggyback off of that. He really didn't. None of his matches really delivered. Him and Danielson had a decent match, but it's Danielson, right? Danielson has a decent match with everybody. I don't think that growing a beard and calling yourself the scapegoat changed who he is. His in-ring is still, he has his moments, but he was pushed at a level this year that it felt like it was done in spite so they could play that video. Right. And it just never really grew from that. The feud with Garcia was fucking horrible. Between the weird shit they did outside and like the rain and by the truck, it just, I don't know. There's something in him, like as a tag worker. I think him and the Dinosaur worked really well. But over time, he's getting pushed on a level. He's carrying around for the bulk of the year. He carried around the TNT title. When there's guys in this company that can't even find TV time, he's not the guy to push. And I get he's one of the OGs, but there's so many more people in that company that deserve that TV time that he was getting. And, the truth is in the pudding somewhere in the Punk stuff. It wasn't, I'm sure it's not fully Punk's story. I'm sure it's not fully the AEW story. It's somewhere in the middle, but he only got pushed because of what happened with Punk and him leaving and talking shit about him. And it fell flat for me. Do you guys want to talk about anything? Do you agree with that? Do you have any other choices?
I've never really been a Jungle Boy fan, and just he evolved out of the Jungle Boy character, but he was probably better as Jungle Boy than Jack Perry. He lacks so much charisma, especially top guy charisma. And he's like I guess him coming across as a punk is like a good thing. That's probably why he's in the role, but I don't necessarily feel like it's an effective thing whatsoever, right? I don't know. I just feel that he's the definition of mid, and for him to be like a pillar, I think like they lost a lot of their pizzazz when they made Sami Callihan and Jack Perry their pillars, and then MJF is one for sure, but then Darby's like the best option out of the other two. So it's just like, I don't know. It's like that's your future. We have Braun Breaker and fucking Gunther and fucking Ludwig Kaiser and all these guys. And then this fucking squid is your future that you self-proclaimedly picked. I think that's a lot of
They just
casual
signed
fan.
right. They just signed so many high-end, successful pro wrestlers that can't get TV time over this kid just because he was an OG. Like I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great call for most overrated.
Yeah, I would add Jericho. We already,
Great call too.
yeah, we already took care of him. Most worst gimmick.
right. And I'm trying to like think about somebody in WWE. Yeah, just because just kind of fair with it.
Solo maybe.
Solo.
He's not as good as his push.
Even like Jey Uso to a degree, but he's so over. How can he really be overrated?
Yeah.
He's had a lot of great matches though. He's hung with Gunther. He's hung with Breaker.
I think the second half of his year was exceedingly better than the first half.
Yeah, I think the WrestleMania is a lot of circumstances. Like they were cut in half probably, and I don't know. I wouldn't put Jey Uso on there. All right, who you got for underrated, Mike?
Underrated. I'm going to stick with AEW because I think these are three of the most criminally underused people in the entire wrestling industry, and that would be the House of Black. Between Aleister Black, between Brody King, and between Buddy Matthews, there's so much fucking talent between the three of them. And I think Aleister Black had like his second or third singles match since he came to AEW this year. There's probably been some injuries there. He's downplayed it. He seems miserable. Brody King gets used as a monster in these Continental Classics. He always gets a big win early, like he did this year with Darby, but then he just fought it to make everybody else look good. Buddy Matthews is somebody that always gets fed to like the new shiny toy to put over. He looks like a star. He wrestles like a star. He just has never been treated like one. I just think these are three guys. If I could pick three guys to leave AEW and go to WWE, it would be them three as a unit. I think it would be like what the Final Testament is doing, turned up to 3,000. And it's just three guys that should be like to Jack Perry's part. Why are these guys on the back burner while a guy like Jack Perry is getting pushed? And maybe it's because they were friends with Punk. There's things that came into way with that. But it feels like eventually they're going to get out of their contracts. Eventually they're going to probably go to WWE. In Brody's case, maybe go there for the first time. But there's so much talent between these three, and they were tag team fodder on a pay-per-view. They always have a back seat, and they get like a little mini push here or there for like a week or two, and it's right back to putting somebody over. So I just think that they're criminally underused, and they're three guys that have super high-end potential that just are never going to see in AEW.
Yeah, is that their own doing though? Like
it could be. It definitely could be.
Black feels like he's so checked out and he'd rather be somewhere else.
But what was
Buddy resigned, right? So Buddy,
shouldn't Jack Perry's own self be his downfall too? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But he's friends with the right guys, which is a problem over there. I think. I don't know. I just feel like Black, the shine is off of him. There's definitely a good character and a pretty good wrestler in there, but I just feel like it would only be tapped into the WWE because I feel like he would get invested there. I just feel like he's uninterested in put his own push is the way I look at him. Gable wouldn't be a bad one either to kind of say underrated or was underpushed is kind of how you looked at it. But yeah, Gable's underrated, but I think 2025 is his year, man. He's going to go to SmackDown and do great things. I think Triple H books far out. He re-signed and he said, your time's coming. Play with me for the rest of this year. And then, you'll be able to go out there and do your thing that we kind of re-signed you for. So I think he's going to have a hell of a breakout in 2025. But in 2024, he was probably underpushed and he'd be my pick, but I get your sentiment. And you're not wrong whatsoever with the House of Black. I just think that I'd push back and say it's a little bit of their own doing in a way as well. I don't know if Tony could trust Malachi, really. It's probably a pain in the ass, honestly.
What's about? I mean, like I was at that Dynamite, the Halloween one, like the day before Halloween, and like Buddy Matthews was getting like against Adam Cole's return match. Everyone was chanting for Buddy. It may have been just because like Adam Cole's character is so bad right now, but I mean, he's over and he's a great wrestler. I really like Brody King too. If I could add one in WWE, Dragon Lee had a lot of hype coming out of
Well, that's a
everything,
good call.
and now he's just kind of there's nothing different between him and DJZ or Joaquin Wilde or Cruz del Toro. He's just kind of another guy and doesn't do much.
Good old Cruz del Toro.
Yeah, Tom. What DJ Z with his fucking hat too.
I like the hat. I'm not gonna lie.
But if I was gonna pick a WWE anything, I think the Street Profits. I don't know what the hell's gone on with them, but Montez Ford was in Elimination Chamber. What year was that? 2022, and you kind of felt like it was coming, and it just never has. Dawkins had some shine last year, and I guess now they're kind of stuck in the middle of DIY and Motor City Machine Guns, but and they got BFAB there too, who she had her one shining moment on TV, and she kind of fell off TV again. I feel like there's an intriguing package with those three that's really not being tapped into in 2024.
Yeah, I feel like they would do well on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny if you think of if the old pervert was still in charge, you feel that Montez Ford and Austin Theory would be top guys now, right? Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. And of course, Madcap Moss, right? But yeah, so interesting. Yeah, it's funny. It's like closing doors, opening doors with that change. Interesting. All right, my next category is the best non-wrestler. And honestly, I don't know, man. I didn't fill this one in. Before, it's all right, staple Heyman easily. But Heyman was gone for a good portion of it. But when he was on TV, he was so good. He was so good at WrestleMania showing agony. He was so good around the Rock. And he was excellent post-WrestleMania, really doing the dirty work to establish Solo Sikoa. So I feel that, Paul Heyman should be it, but he was off for 4 or 5 months. But no one else is really sticking out to me like a sore thumb. So I'm just going to go old reliable and go Paul Heyman. I think Callis would be the AEW pick. I don't even know if he's had a good year, really. Has he? I don't think so. And if he did, Heyman's had a better one. Just me going off of what I was just saying about him. He maximized his lesser minutes this year in a calendar year. So I think that he's the pick because I don't think there's anyone else. Now, would CM Punk qualify as a non-wrestler because he filled so much time and was so pivotal when he was hurt? I'm not sure, but I don't know. Because he really had the feud of the year when he was off the backbone of him being injured and him being a non-wrestler on TV. So I was thinking him, but I think I'm getting too cute with that answer. And I think I'm overthinking not picking Paul Heyman because he was off TV for 4 months.
Heyman's my pick. I think Callis does. The more you hear of Callis, the worse he gets. And I was kind of had a cute answer and two, just within the women's division, Dom Mysterio just being Liv second and Rhea second, I thought is fun. I mean, he obviously is a wrestler, but within the women's division itself, he is entertaining and he obviously doesn't wrestle the women, but no, I think it's Heyman.
All right. I'm glad.
What about Pearson and/or Aldis?
Yeah, that's a great pick too. I thought them as well, but
I probably lean Pierce at the 2. But think of how much TV time that he in particular has to fill.
Yeah, but did they have my thing against them is did they have? You're right. Your sentiment is awesome and right, but did they necessarily have a jump up moment like Heyman did going through the table?
No, I think that the biggest thing that they did was help elevate Chelsea.
Yeah, but that's mid-card women.
It is. And I'm trying to think of anything else that they were tied into. Was it KO stunned one of them in Crown Jewel? Was that right? Or they just came to break it up? I don't remember, but But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like they're such a huge part of their TV. I feel like I had to give
And they're really, really good at their jobs at being GMs. They're fantastic at it. So I definitely understand your sentiment. I just don't know if they have like the jump up moments to get there.
Yeah, like Heyman had the seminal moment of like getting fucked up at MSG and stuff like that. So that carried TV for a while because it just gave Solo so much more heat.
And then bringing back CM Punk and like his return was a top 5 pop of the year.
Right.
And that's a historical year we've had, right? So, and he was at ringside for the biggest moment in the wrestling this year with the Cody title win. So I think it's him. I'm just trying to penalize him because he was gone, but he was gone because of a huge moment, right? So,
yep. And I'm going to give an honorable mention to Mama Rhodes.
There we go.
For sure. All right, Eller, Booker and Promoter of the Year. In 2029, the Observer is going to rename this the Tony Khan Award.
He better not win this year because he doesn't deserve it.
He didn't win last year, nor should he have.
No, he didn't. I think it's Hunter again. I would go with Triple H. I think the things we've said about WWE being the best promotion, I think, are the same things that you could say for why he's the best booker or promoter. And just that he has everything. It seems like he has everything absolutely mapped out. He knows where he's going to go with everything. Every character has some sort of purpose. Anything that's not working, they look at it again, and that's not that often. He even got, like, again, the Final Testament, they actually kind of, like, has her shit together right now in terms of, like, feeling focused and having a purpose. I'm not trying to just, like, talk about the Final Testament, but you had a babyface, like, almost like similar to Cena, like Cody Rhodes, who's not getting booed, who's still like this huge guy. The B pay-per-views still feel like a pretty big deal because they're going to all these different countries and getting these insane reactions. I want to give a little shout out to HBK. I think he's doing a really good, very good job with NXT, but he's doing it on a much smaller level, and Triple H is knocking out of the park in this huge thing that he's doing with the Raw and SmackDown. And maybe the first time I pick HBK or Triple H over HBK in anything, but he's just doing such an awesome job.
Yeah, well, he's got the bigger role, right? And he's kind of HBK's boss in a way too, as well. So they have a lot of coinciding storylines as well. So I think they work extremely well together. It's just Triple H's stuff is more meaningful. HBK, I'd like to see HBK on like just have SmackDown and see what he could do and see if he does like kind of the zany and wonky stuff that he does in NXT because it works for NXT. I'm just curious if it would translate or work in like a USA SmackDown setting. So I've always been kind of curious of that. So I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll see one day. Who knows? But I'm good with. Yeah, Booker of the Year is Triple H. Do you see any difference? Because when I say this every year, when I think Booker, I think TVs, I think pay-per-views, and when I see promoter, I mean money signs. So that's why I was like, why is TK Promoter of the Year when he's never drawn a dime in his life? It's Dana Brooke. Or it's Dana Brooke, right? it's Dana White, or it's even Vince with all these TV deals, right? So in the past, right? Even though you can say Promoter of the Year, Vince McMahon, what? But I think of money when you say promoter. I don't think when you say Booker, I think of TV.
Yeah, you say promoter now, I think Nick Khan,
Yes, exactly.
Because there's been like the Netflix deal was him, right? Like deciding to go with the site fees for pay-per-views, that was him. So like there's the money side of it to me is the promoter, where the booking side of it's what you see on TV.
Yeah. Do you think Triple H has hung a banner yet?
Like in what regard, I guess?
In the PC, did he hang a banner? Booker promoter of the year?
No, probably not. Probably not.
I doubt it. That'd be awesome if he did, though. Did Tony Khan do that?
Yes, that's why I brought it up. That fucking dork. In Daily Place, he hung a fucking banner.
Oh, I did not know. That's terrible.
All right. Anything else on the promoter of the book of the year? It's kind of my favorite award just because it's so like it brings out the worst of this whole thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's. I don't think there could be any other choice.
Yeah. All right. Rossi, most improved in 2024.
All right, so I was originally thinking Ludwig Kaiser because I thought that his in-ring really improved. But then I thought of like the whole package. And I can't go this year without saying somebody that I shit on in many prior years. And I think of our old friend Rocco when I say that. And I'm going to give the most improved to Liv Morgan. I think from a character perspective, she really hit it out of the park. I think, for somebody that was off TV and she came back in the Rumble and she worked Elimination Chamber and she was pretty much off TV again, wasn't involved in Mania, but right after Mania, she hurt Rhea, which ended up being legitimate. Well, to a degree, I think they played it up to be worse than it was. From there, she just went on the full seduction of Dominic Mysterio, which was just great TV for weeks. And I really think she found a little niche in her character then as she was turning heel. And as she turned heel, I think her in-ring work improved because a lot of the stuff she does, like Oblivion, is more of a heel move. Just the way she carried herself, the way that she worked, she got herself to, if not the top woman's role in the company for the bulk of the year, but the 1B to Rhea's 1A. And she really kind of filled that gap that we didn't have in a Becky Lynch for the majority of the year, or a Charlotte Flair for the entire year. And obviously she doesn't bring the in-ring that those two have, but she's somebody that I never would have thought would have been able to step up to that level and be such a seminal part of their TV week after week, month after month. She's worked, like, obviously bringing Raquel in, I think, has helped the entire package as well. And it's somebody that can eat pins so she doesn't have to sometimes. But all in all, I mean, I think that she's helped get Rhea to even a higher star power level as far as a babyface goes. And, Rhea has obviously helped Liv at this point too. It's just two women that have had a feud that a lot of people could find boring if it was other people that did it, but the way that they had gaps off TV, it's worked. And obviously we knew Rhea was a big star going into the year, and she was, in a real important spot at Mania against Becky. But Liv is somebody that I didn't see this in her as far as being able to carry TV as much as she has. And like I said, with that and the heel turn, I think her in-ring improved. I don't think that there's really like an in-ring match that I can say, oh, that's such a good match, you've got to go watch. But I find her in-ring to be a lot more capable than it had been in prior years. And from anybody to go from somebody that wasn't even a thought on a Mania to carry their women's title for the bulk of the year and do it competently, I think that has to be in consideration for most improved.
Yeah, the bar was so low that in a lot of things besides like connection, because she's always had her stands, right? The people that believed in her and whatnot. But this is the year that she's put it together and she's become a completely acceptable women's wrestler, in my opinion. Is she the best? No. Is she the worst? Absolutely not. But she is compelling enough. This story is just a little long in the tooth. And unfortunately for her, she's going to get the brunt of that blame, not Rhea, in a way, right? If you think about it. So, yeah, I definitely see your sentiment with her being the most improved.
I mean, she does media for them now. Like, she was at
Netflix yesterday.
Yeah.
Did
you, and if I told you that Liv Morgan would be one of two people going to do NFL games a week and a half before they go to Netflix, you would have told me I was fucking crazy. And if I told you that in June, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, she's hot as hell, and that tells you a lot
insane.
why. But you would think they would send Rhea to do that, or they would send Becky to do that. Becky was in the commercial, right? Bianca even, right? So
yeah, Bianca's
right. I think that the fact that Liv does it and Liv is doing it at a level that is competent, and it looks like she's a believable TV act when she's on it. I just think she's taken such a high step forward. I couldn't pick anybody else.
I'm curious what's next for her after this title run and after Rhea Ripley. Where does she fall? What does she fall into, and what is she doing in 2025? I don't want to say it's a pivotal year, but it's a very curious year for me.
You've got the secondary titles now. You've got the tag titles that are still there. Her and Raquel are kind of ready-made for that. She's going to be able, Becky's going to come back, and she's still going to Liv's the one that sent her off TV when you think about it.
Yeah.
Took her title, so that's kind of
They've
a ready-made
done that so many times, though.
Right, but it's like there's going to be lanes there, and Stratton's going to get moved up a peg as well sometime soon. There's still fresh matches there for her, but again, with her, it's not always about the in-ring; it's just what she can do to carry a TV show.
Yep. All right, I'm up with the last B category of the episode, guys, and it is the biggest box office draw. I wrote down 4 names, all being WWE names: Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, all around smack it down people's champ, The Rock. So Rock in 6 months created the most buzz, but it was also WrestleMania season. Roman perhaps created the biggest moment with his title reign. Cody capitalized on that biggest moment, creating it, and CM Punk perhaps had the biggest I don't know how to say it, like social media moments, or the biggest buzz or the biggest ratings for Raw when he was ever on it. So those 3, and honestly for CM Punk, him getting mentioned on AEW for the brawl out footage probably caused them the biggest rating. Have they had a bigger rating since then for people to see what they would do there, right? And he's really, you could see the business fall off when he left there. And, is that all on him? No, but a lot of it should that attribute to him winning this? No, but I don't know. Who would you, out of those 4 names, and I don't think anyone in AEW is a box office draw whatsoever.
No.
Out of those 4 names, who should it go with? Like, should it go with like the 2-month run of The Rock? Should it go with the moment and withstanding the huge title reign with Cody? Should it be Roman Reigns elevating this whole thing to Netflix, really, in a way? Or should it be CM Punk coming back and coming into Atlanta Giants and then sticking out as a Giant as well? I really don't know which one to go with. What would you guys think out of all those 4 of those options? I think those are the 4 options.
I want to go with Cody. I just think because he's been the guy, he's been the champion. I just don't know how much him being champion has to do with like them selling out in France or them selling out in any of these foreign countries. But he's been so important. I don't know. He's been the champion. I think he's still my pick though.
Yeah, it's hard. It's there's no one to really pinpoint anything because all these people, and like, what metrics do you even look at? Do you look at social media numbers? Do you look at merchandise being sold? Because that you can put out fucking CM Punk coasters and people are going to buy them, right? You can put out Cody Rhodes fucking dog toys and people are going to buy them. It's like, it's what they give you. Like Chad Gable probably gets 1 piece of merch, right? Not that he's would be on this, but it's so hard to gauge this in 2024. Tickets, whenever Roman's on, it sells out the arena for the most part. But if The Rock comes on, you have people outside of the WWE. He's one of the biggest stars in the universe, right? So if The Rock's on, it's catastrophic numbers. So my gut would tell me it's him because he did main event of WrestleMania, but then Cody and Roman main evented 2 of them, right? CM Punk is probably 4th, but he deserves his flowers on this list, in my opinion. But I don't know. This is a hard one. This is one where I'd like people could be like, oh, it's Cody. Like Eller said, he's the champ. Or it's Roman. Look at when he's on, numbers are up. Or it's The Rock. Numbers are up even way more when he's on. He's the biggest star in the company history. Or CM Punk, he's probably the most impactful week-to-week guy that they have, not named Cody Rhodes. So it's a hard category to pick, but I think it's out of those four, and it's someone definitely in the WWE.
Yeah, I would go Rock, because like to what we were saying with his best gimmick, he elevated everybody for that 6-week span. That press conference he was just electric. He made a star out of everything he touched during that stretch, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like without him, that Mania moment doesn't feel the same, right? It still would have been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's it was a different level because of the 8 weeks of TV or whatever we had leading into it. I don't think that, like, I think of it this way, like box office. If there were 3 shows running in Boston in 2025, the show in March has The Rock on it, but not Roman and Cody. The one in June's got Roman, but not Cody and The Rock. And the one in November's got Cody, but not Rock and Roman. The Rock show is going to sell out the most. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like, and it could be timing and whatever, but I just think he's the one there's no mystery to the fact that they announced he was on the board like 2 days before they announced the Netflix deal, right? There's just a different level with him as far as the, like, kind of what we were saying with promoter versus booker. You've got to talk about the bottom line, and that's the money. And The Rock brings the most attention, which in turn is the most money.
No, for sure. But then it's like Cody Rhodes was a big enough star for him to take that night 2 main event from The Rock and them trusting him box office wise to main event WrestleMania twice, not The Rock. I get it. But I think you can make a case for all these guys. I think Cody's 2. My gut told me Cody was 2 and The Rock was 1. So I'm going to go with The Rock with the biggest box office draw of 2024. Guys, that's it for this one. We are going to come back with a part 2 where all of us will give our Class A awards, and we'll be back sooner than later. So we'll see you on the next one, guys.